Your life today is a perfect reflection of who you are on the inside. If you're unhappy with what you see around you, in your relationships, your money, your career, your health, I need to tell you something that's going to be hard to hear. The problem is not out there. The problem is in the mirror. Throughout this video, I'm going to show you why your reality will never change until you change first. I'm going to show you what the mirror principle is, how it's operating in your life without you even noticing, and what you need to do right now to break the cycle of repetition that most people stay stuck in for their entire lives. This isn't empty motivational talk. This is something that, once you truly understand it, will change the way you see everything. Let me ask you an honest question. Have you ever stopped to think about why the same situations keep happening in your life? Maybe you switch jobs and the new boss is exactly like the old one. Maybe you end a relationship and the next one has the same problems. Maybe you try a new diet, a new habit, a new routine, and after a few weeks, everything goes back to the same place. Most people blame bad luck, blame other people, blame the circumstances. But what almost nobody wants to face is that the only common denominator in all of those situations is you. You are the constant. And that's not to attack you. It's to set you free. Because as long as you believe the problem is on the outside, you'll keep waiting for something to change without doing anything different. You'll keep waiting for the world to adjust, for people to change, for the situation to improve on its own. But the world doesn't work that way. The world works like a mirror. The mirror principle is simple. What you project, life reflects back at you. I'm not talking about mysticism. This isn't law of attraction talk where you close your eyes, think about a nice car, and it shows up in your driveway. I'm talking about something much more concrete. I'm talking about behavior, about patterns, about beliefs that run on autopilot every single day, shaping every decision you make without you even realizing it. Think about it this way. If you believe, deep down, that you don't deserve to be truly loved, what do? You sabotage relationships. You choose people who treat you badly because that confirms what you already believe about yourself. And then you look at your life and say, see, everyone leaves me. But who chose those people? Who created the pattern? You. If you believe money is hard to make, that only rich people get richer, that you weren't born lucky, what do? You avoid opportunities. You quit at the first obstacle. You spend everything you earn because deep down you believe it won't last anyway. And then you look at your financial situation and say, yeah, I knew it would be like this. But who made each one of those small decisions, day after day? You. That's the mirror working. It's not punishment. It's not fate. It's the direct result of who you are being projected out into the world. Development. Why external change doesn't work. Most people try to fix their life problems by moving the pieces on the outside. They change cities, change jobs, change relationships, change their diet, buy a new course, start a new routine. And it works for a while. Sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. There's that good feeling of a fresh start. But then, inevitably, the same patterns come back. Why? Because you brought yourself along. When you change cities without changing what's inside you, you arrive in a new place with the same fears, the same limitations, the same beliefs. And within a few months, your life in the new place starts to look a lot like the life you had before. It's like trying to clean dirt with a dirty rag. You're acting on the external world with internal tools that haven't been updated. There's a concept in psychology called the repetition compulsion. Basically, human beings tend to recreate familiar situations, even when those situations are bad, because the familiar feels safe. The brain prefers the predictable over the unknown. So when you try to build a new life with an old mindset, the brain resists. It will sabotage you. It will pull you back to the pattern it knows. Not because you're weak, but because that's how the brain works. Real change doesn't happen when you swap the circumstances. It happens when you swap who you are. Air development, the reflection you don't want to see. Now here's the hardest part. The mirror shows things we don't want to see. When you look at your life and don't like what you see, the natural reaction is to look away, to blame the reflection, to throw a stone at the mirror. But the mirror doesn't lie. If the people around you don't respect you, maybe you're not respecting yourself first. If you're always complaining that nobody values your work, maybe you yourself don't believe your work has value. If you're always tired, overwhelmed, feeling like life is too heavy, Maybe you've said yes to so many things that don't make sense that there's no energy left for anything that matters. Looking in the mirror for real takes courage. Not the courage to go skydiving or quit everything and travel the world. That's easy compared to what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the courage to sit with yourself, with no distractions, and ask, where am I lying to myself? Where am I outsourcing the responsibility for my own life? What am I not willing to admit? That's the hardest conversation you'll ever have. And it's with yourself. There's an old saying, be the change you wish to see in the world. Most people hear that and think it's a nice quote to put on the wall. But it's a law of how reality works. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot create what you are not. If you want more love in your life, you need to become a more loving person, and that starts with the relationship you have with yourself. If you want more opportunities, you need to become someone who recognizes and acts on opportunities, and that starts with how you respond to the small challenges of everyday life. If you want more respect, you need to become someone who respects themselves, and that starts with the decisions you make when nobody is watching. The change that matters is an identity change. Not, I'll try to do things differently. But I will be different. Because when you change who you are, everything around you changes. Not overnight. Not magically. But progressively, the circumstances of your life start to align with the new version of you. Why? Because you start making different decisions. Going to different places. Attracting different people. Noticing opportunities that were always there but that you couldn't see before. The mirror doesn't change first. You change first. And the mirror responds. All right, but how does this actually work in practice? Because theory without application is useless. First step, stop focusing on the external problem and start investigating the internal pattern. Take the most persistent problem in your life right now. That thing that just won't go away, no matter how hard you try. And ask yourself, what belief I have about myself is keeping this problem alive? What would I have to believe about myself to keep creating this situation? That's uncomfortable, but it's revealing. Second step, challenge the story you tell about yourself. Most people carry an internal narrative that was built over years, by family, by bad experiences, by failures that were misunderstood. I'm not good with money. I just don't have luck. Things never work out for me. I'm not the kind of person who can pull that off. Those phrases feel like descriptions, but they're actually instructions. The brain does what you tell it to do. So the question isn't whether that narrative is true or false. The question is this narrative helping me build the life I want? If it's not, you have the right and the responsibility to rewrite it. Third step, start acting like the person you want to be right now, not after the circumstances improve. Now, how would that future version of you act today? What decision would they make? How would they respond to this problem? What habit would they have? Start there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be big. But it has to be now. Because identity doesn't change through thought alone. Identity changes through repeated action. Every time you act like the person you want to be, you send a signal to your brain. This is who I am. And the brain, over time, starts to believe it. I need to be honest with you about something. Not changing has a cost. Most people don't see that cost because it doesn't show up all at once. It shows up in installments. One lost opportunity here. One relationship that didn't go anywhere there. One version of life that kept being postponed, week after week, year after year. And suddenly you look back and realize you spent your time waiting for things to change while you yourself stayed still. That's the biggest trap in life. We think we have time. That later the situation will be better. That one day, when everything lines up, then we'll be able to change. But the right moment won't come until you create that moment. And creating that moment starts with a decision. Not a perfect decision. Not a decision made with all the resources and all the guarantees. An imperfect decision, made right now, with what you have. That decision is, I'm going to stop waiting for my life to change and I'm going to start changing myself. So, to wrap up what we covered today, the reality you live in is a direct reflection of who you are on the inside. Changing external circumstances without changing what's inside you will always result in the same patterns, in different settings. Real change begins when you have the courage to look in the mirror honestly, identify the patterns that are keeping you stuck, and make the decision to become a different version of yourself. Not a perfect version, a version that is growing. And remember, the mirror doesn't change first. You change first. The mirror responds. The life you want is on the other side of that change. And the only path to get there runs through you. If this video made sense to you, watch the next one, because what I have to show you goes one step further than what you saw here.